In the name of Almighty Allah, the compassionate, the merciful. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, peace be with all of you. In this lovely morning, we meet all of you to discuss a highly important topic, which is education. Education is the very cornerstone of the lives of human and the progress of humanity, and it really ensures a bright future for the community. How can we interfere in education? How can we develop education? And does this development of education require high skills to envisage the future and read between the lines to shape a better future by exceptional leaders? It requires decision makers who are wise and innovative and also highly persistent. Yet this developmental effort requires great efforts, and this can be done only by exceptional leaders. Almighty Allah granted our country many blessings that underscore the progress of education, including political will and the UAE vision, which enables our leaders and the different pioneers of many fields to do their best to ensure an innovative, knowledge-based education for the country. And also in order to exchange international expertise, and within this context, the Regional Center for Educational Planning organizes the 3rd International Conference on Education. Now, I leave you with His Excellency Mr. Marwan Sawaleh, the Under-Secretary of the Ministry of Education for Academic Affairs. He will give the speech of His Excellency Hussain Al-Hammadi, the Minister of Education. Please, the floor is yours. In the name of Allah, the Compassionate, the Merciful, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, peace be with all of you. At the beginning, I would like to convey to you the greetings of His Excellency Hussain Al-Hammadi, the Minister of Education, and he could not really attend because he has another conference to attend at the same time. And I would also like to welcome the guests of the UAE in this conference, the foreign guests in this wonderful day that has a very busy schedule for the 3rd International Conference, which is organized by the Regional Center for Educational Planning under the title Education for Future, from Planning to Praxis. On behalf of the Ministry of Education, at the beginning I would like to express our appreciation and gratitude to His Highness Sheikh Dr. Sultan bin Muhammad Al-Qasimi, member of the Supreme Council, ruler of Sharjah, for sponsoring this conference and for his continuous support that left a great impact on the fields of knowledge, education and culture. The development of education is no longer an optional issue. It is a pressing request entailed and required by many factors that require coping with the development of our country, which cannot really be fulfilled in the absence of education and effective education, or any weakness in the field of education. Not to mention that we have strategic objectives for our country towards transformation transformation towards a knowledge-based economy, to be able to enable future generations to handle their responsibility efficiently and effectively. This objective requires that we underscore a high-quality educational system. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, well-planning and well-studied planning is a cornerstone of success of any project, and therefore the Ministry of Education in the UAE embarked on developing education and turning it into one of the key factors of the development of the entire country. under the supervision of His Excellency Hussain al-Hammadi, the Minister of Education, to achieve the objectives of the UAE and the development objectives in light of the development and progress achieved in the UAE. Increasing the efficiency of the educational system requires a series of preparations and developmental steps, including enhancing school leadership and enhancing the quality of administrative and professional development of teachers, in addition to improving pedagogical methods and bridging the gap between the public education and higher education, and building channels and establishing channels of cooperation and collaboration that result in reducing cost and increasing efficiency. Today, we are required more than ever to work as one team and to collaborate to achieve our desired objectives. We rely heavily on such international conferences because we firmly believe that the development of education should be based on international best practices and international achievements, and also learn from the flaws and mistakes of other educational systems in order to have a state-of-the-art educational system that can meet the needs of continuous development and sustainable development, and thereby achieve the objectives of the wise leadership of the UAE. Therefore, and in this context comes this conference that aims to pave the way for the group discussion and an open discussion on education and the development of education, and exchanging ideas and expertise and visions, in addition to shedding light on the current experiences by educational competencies and expertise represented in your good selves, in addition to enabling our education system to be highly competitive at the international arena. In conclusion, I wish you a successful conference, and I wish all of you success, and I hope that you can come up with recommendations that will enrich the educational system. Moreover, I would like to express our gratitude and thanks for the sponsors and organizers of this conference, and for the Regional Center for Education Planning for all the efforts to underscore the education system. Thank you, and God bless all of you. The UNESCO has always been spurring attention and directing attention to the quality of education, and it continues to ensure and exert efforts to ensure equal access to education, because the UNESCO believes that any country that looks up to or looks forward to developing its economy and developing its capacities in this highly turbulent times, they have to focus on education, and they have to develop the educational systems in a way that boosts innovation by utilizing the ability to exchange knowledge and the successful experiences and success stories that are in line with the local cultures and local heritage. Now I leave you with His Excellency Dr. Muhammad Al-Hammami, the Director of the Regional UNESCO Office in Beirut and the representative of the UNESCO on this conference. Please, the floor is yours. In the name of Allah, the Compassionate, the Merciful, praise be to Almighty Allah, and peace be upon the Prophet and all his kin and kith. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellency Ms. Mahra Almutaiwei, the Director of the Regional Center for Educational Planning, ladies and gentlemen, peace be with all of you. At the beginning, it is an honor to express our appreciation and gratitude to His Highness Sheikh Dr. Sultan bin Muhammad Al-Qasimi, member of the Supreme Council and ruler of Sharjah, for sponsoring this conference. Moreover, it is an honor to convey to you the greetings of Ms. Iria Bikova, the Director of the UNESCO, and her wishes to this conference to be highly successful. We also express our appreciation and gratitude to His Highness and His Excellency Hussain Al-Hammadi, the Minister of Education, who is providing support to this highly important conference. Education is one of the key human rights, and it is the very cornerstone of sustainable development and fair development. What is really worrying UNESCO is the turbulences and the ongoing conflicts in the Middle East, which have had a negative impact on the educational process and prevented many people from access to education. We are worried about the targeting of educational facilities and institutions and murdering of teachers and students, and forcing families to flee educational institutions and forcing young people to carry arms and engage into military conflicts. UNESCO will always do its very best, and with the support of the generous sponsors and support from Almighty Allah and the cooperation with all competent entities, we will do our best to deal with these crises. The UNESCO has a comprehensive plan to bridge the gap in education through three main factors. The first factor is to ensure that the gap that has to do with the access to university education will be bridged. We have seen that there are the ability to grant access to children in refugee camps to enroll in primary schools, but it is difficult for the young people to join university education because they are being targeted by armed groups. The quality of education also in crisis times has been neglected, and therefore we are looking into developing innovative solutions to enable this category of young people to receive higher education that is appropriate to their needs. The third point is to ensure that we bolster the educational capacities of the host countries that receive refugees to increase its resilience in facing these crises and continue to provide education services. Providing education services to hundreds of thousands of refugees represent a massive burden for the host countries that receive those refugees. Therefore, we continue to call upon all sponsor countries to do their best to support and protect young people from being targeted by extremist groups. Ladies and gentlemen, your conference is highly important because it focuses on education for the future and the relationship between education and the requirements of the labor market. The UNESCO, in cooperation with the partner organizations, seeks to ensure that education has its own independent objective for the 2015 development objectives that has 7 key objectives. It has been approved as part of the millennial objectives and millennial agenda, and these objectives are in line with your conference, which seeks to ensure equal access for men and women to high quality university education and increase the number of young people who have appropriate skills to obtain jobs in the labor market. The vocational and educational strategies of the UNESCO focus on 3 key areas for the development of vocational skills and developing these skills by providing consultancy for building capacities at the national level and clarifying the processes of building capacities and establishing an information exchange center, and also facilitating the international debate on education in the UNESCO office in Beirut. Has been organizing a number of workshops and conferences, especially the conferences that focus on young people and work and life skills. These activities have been conducted in cooperation with UNESCO network in the Arab countries, which comprise 35 educational and training institutions that are subsidiaries of the Ministries of Education. We also would like to thank the Kingdom of Bahrain for its support to the UNESCO and the Sultanate of Oman for supporting UNESCO and underscoring the entrepreneurship in the educational programs. The UNESCO research paper in this conference will shed light on a number of models for developing educational system and providing and ensuring work opportunities for young people. And these models will include Triple P, or partnership between public and private sectors, and the training centers in the GCC Council, and also underscoring the efforts for underscoring sustainable development. The recommendations of this conference will also include how to combat the fleeing of this area by young people, and to ensure that we underscore development and the progress of the Arab community. Once again, I would like to express our appreciation for His Highness Sheikh Dr. Sultan bin Muhammad Al-Qasimi, member of the Supreme Council, ruler of Sharjah, for sponsoring this conference and for his unlimited support for the UNESCO Educational Center in Sharjah. We would also like to thank His Excellency Mr. Hussain Hammadi, Minister of Education, and Ms. Mahra Hilal, the Chairwoman of the Regional Center for Educational Planning Center. And we wish you all the best. Thank you, and God bless all of you. The Regional Center for Educational Planning in Sharjah is pleased to welcome all of you and to have such a great and amazing group of scientists, experts and educational leaders who will be exchanging their views on the latest developments in this field worldwide, to answer the difficult questions of how to engage into building a brighter future and how to face the challenges of the future and turn them into opportunities, and how to change our society into a highly active society that generates innovation and underscores innovators. This is what the Regional Center for Educational Planning seeks to achieve. Ladies and gentlemen, I leave you with the Director of the Regional Center for Educational Planning, Ms. Mahra Hilal. Please, the floor is yours.
In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful, thanks to God, and peace be upon the greatest leader in the world, who came up with the goodness for the people, who built the future of the humanity. His Excellency, Mr. Hammami, the Regional Director of the Regional Center for the Education Planning Organization, and Ali bin Abdul Al-Karni, the Director of the Education Center in the GCC country, and Mr. Al-Sawaleh, the Undersecretary of the Ministry of Education for Education and Academic Affairs. Peace be upon you, ladies and gentlemen. We are convening today under Sharjah, and in this pioneering status, and under the sponsorship of His Highness Sheikh Sultan bin Muhammad Al-Qasimi, member of the Supreme Council and ruler of Sharjah. This meeting, which is enlightened by the participation of a number of specialists and educators in the region. We are counting on their experience and participations to in all activities, in educational activities and scientific activities conducted by the center. Though we believe in their expertise and we believe in their efforts to develop the education parade in the region for the development of the nation, which we strive to achieve in the UAE, all people and government under the direction of His Highness Sheikh Zayed, and under the directive of the Sultan Al-Qasimi, who in building the human being, because it is the only and the main wealth of the country. Our government has put the development of education as the cornerstone for all its projects and development of the nation, and we have also put all the efforts to develop the educational institutions in the country, to develop the ability and capabilities of the UAE nationals. So these institutions are the factory of building human being in the country for the development of the whole nation. Under this, from planning to praxis is the conference which we are holding today, which comes under the strategic planning and strategic plans of the Ministry of Education, because education is the only way for converting our economy into the productive economy and sustainable development. We are trying to discuss this subject through the studies and the speech of the experts who have the practical knowledge and practical experience, and the knowledge and the experience. And the second subject also to be discussed is the innovation, actually, because we have adopted the plan, we have adopted the policy to become the best country in the world in the coming 7 years in terms of innovations. So any initiative regarding the innovation, we will focus on it, and the role of the education in adopting innovations to support that. The third objective is the focus on the Ministry of Education experience in actually enriching the achievement of the 2020 or 2021 policy of the UAE in achieving the education objectives. So the Minister of Education and the chairman of this center tomorrow will be discussing these efforts. And the last subject to be discussed, we will focus on the outcome of the education system in preparing and enriching the experience of those who are educated in these centers, and to produce them, to put them in the economic development and the economic field. So the link between the outcome of these centers and institutions and the role of the planning and the complementing the efforts of each other is the objective of all of us to upgrade our educational system. And we will focus on our papers and through the discussion of this conference to come up with solutions and to face the challenges in order to enrich our achievements in this regard, to enhance actually the quality of the process. The center is cannot achieve whatever it wants to achieve without the support of the UNESCO and the support of the regional offices and the partnership which we have built with the organizations and establishment which is working in the field, in the regional and the international field. Without also the support of our leaders and our experts in education in the region. So we count on them, and we are actually believe that we will achieve the success through their supports. And the participation of those people and those pioneers, we will be able to build a greater future in the UAE and the Arab countries. Finally, I thank all the Sheikh Dr. Sultan bin Mohammed Qasimi through his sponsorship and support is the main support for our to enrich our educational progress, and the expertise and the support of all those who have experience in the field of development of education, which will enlighten the future, our plan for the future. And also the Minister of Education, Mr. Hammadi, who support the work of the center. And also we thank you all, those who are attending this conference today for the best future of our country, and peace be upon you.
Countries and developed countries compete through the knowledge they generate, and the nations enjoy the benefits of this knowledge. There is no way to catch up with the developed countries without the knowledge-based education. The education system that is based on granting and imparting high levels of knowledge on students to enable them to generate advanced knowledge. This can only be achieved by the futuristic-based knowledge and the educational system that can envisage a great future. Now we move on to the second panel, to the second session. Dr. Tayseer and Noaimi, please, the floor is yours to start the second session. In the name of Allah, the Compassionate, the Merciful, peace be upon the Prophet. It is an honor and a pleasure to call upon our colleagues, Dr. Coustere and Dr. Abdullatif Shamsi, to come to the floor, please. The floor is yours to present the research papers in this first session. First, I would like to express our appreciation and gratitude to the Regional Center for Educational Planning. I'd like to express our appreciation for the chairman of this conference, of this center, and the director of this center for calling upon us to moderate this session. The title of the first session is Future Education and Knowledge-Based Development. Therefore, it is really in line with the general theme of this conference. It's the third international conference for the center, and I'm pleased to present our dear colleagues who will submit the two research papers. Dr. Coustere, his paper is on education and future based on knowledge, prospects, outlook, and constructing. Dr. Paul is the director of the International Educational Planning, IAP, in Paris. It is one of the technical arms of the UNESCO. He has an extensive experience in the field of planning for education, and education economics. His career track is very rich, and he has accumulated experience in the fields of studies and research and education economics and envisioning the future. The second research paper will be submitted by Dr. Abdullatif Shamsi. Dr. Abdullatif is the director of the higher colleges of technology in the UAE, and Dr. Abdullatif has a PhD in mechanical engineering from Duke University in the USA, and he's also a professor at the Emirates University, the UAE University, and he has a very rich career track as he was the director of the Implemented Technology Institute. He's been playing an active role at the national level in terms with all the issues related to reforming education and development of education, especially in light of the major changes that have been witnessing in the very structure of the labor market and the subsequent changes. The first paper by Dr. Paul is about the education in the future based on knowledge, prospects, outlook, and constructing. We have started on time and as per the agenda. Therefore, our colleagues will present their papers. Each one of them will have 20 to 25 minutes. Then we will open the floor to questions, and we hope it will be a highly interactive discussion, and you can pose any questions to the speakers. In brief, the two research papers shed light on many challenges that have to do with the planning of education. No doubt, these research papers explain why the efforts of reforming education have been so modest, especially in the Arab region. The reason is that the planning for education is based on fundamentals that are not sound ones from the social and economic perspectives. Therefore, we are still saying that the objective of education is imparting knowledge, and transfer of knowledge. We are not talking about education as an education system that has a social and economic function. We do not want to reproduce the past, but to shape the future. Therefore, we have major issues in terms of planning and the aspects of planning and the mechanism of planning for education as part of the development efforts in the country. And this is what the two speakers will shed light on. Dr. Paul, the floor is yours.
You have around 20. Is that enough? Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I first want to express my deep gratitude for inviting me to this major event, and especially for the conveners, His Excellency Minister of Education and Madam Director of RCEP, and I'm very grateful to be here. I was asked to tell you this morning about education future based on knowledge, prospects, and outlook. So let's start. See, this is a very, very huge topic, and like every time predicting the future almost guarantees that the future will refute you. So it is important to clarify that we are not trying to offer science fiction or political fiction. We are only trying, modestly, to take the measure of the recurring questions of knowledge in educational policy, a welcome recurrence as long as one specifies the origin of its meanings. Linking education's future closely with the question of knowledge is completely in line with the structure of the Sustainable Development Goals, which have just been adopted by the United Nations General Assembly. in this universal undertaking with a time horizon of 2030, knowledge is not only making a comeback as a justification for the specific education objective, but also transversally for the reaching all economic, social, and political objectives set by the international community. Can we go to the next slide, please? Thank you. So, knowledge is so consubstantial with education that emphasizing education based on knowledge may seem a tautology. But a closer examination shows that things are not so simple. The dialogue over the last 15 years has seen a relative shift of the use of the word knowledge in educational policy question toward a more specific notion such as skill. The notion of skill, as useful as it is, especially in operationalization of educational policy, does not originate from the educational community. It cannot push aside the more fundamental question of knowledge. Moreover, it's paradoxical and even a bit annoying that the return of knowledge to the center of educational policy does not originate from the educational community itself, faithful to its own identity, but from the world of economics, theoretically more down to earth in its expectation. However, the expression knowledge-based education only mirrors the expression knowledge-based economics, popularized by Joseph Stiglitz, the Economic Nobel Prize in 2001. For Joseph Stiglitz and others, it was an acknowledgement of the fact that from now on, the production of knowledge and information is just as important, if not more so, than the production of steel and automobiles. In this new economy, the question of knowledge and its production, dissemination, and result in new hierarchies becomes a prime question. Concerning educational policy, the individual as well as collective stakes are the ability to adapt to the production and trading conditions which are undergoing accelerated transformation. This post-industrial economy is also where innovation is constantly producing creative destruction, so dear to Schumpeter, the Austrian economist. It renders obsolete the educational and training model adapted for lifelong employees in the same company, a model developed in the OECD countries during the glorious 30s, that is, the 30 years of growth following the Second World War until the first oil crisis. This destructive creativity applied to companies as it did to skills, requiring individuals to constantly upskill due to technical developments and economic requirements for more flexibility. More flexible employment contracts produced a demand for individuals able to work for different employers and sometimes in different sectors, especially during recessions. The movement towards apprenticeship based on skills in Western Europe is an example. There is a structural decline in the sustainability of specific knowledge and skills. In contrast, there is a strong need to equip students with general skills and work-related attitudes which will make them more capable of acquiring new skills during employment. Next slide, please. You see here a picture of the old paradigm of education, the one of the growth, let's say, in the post-World War year, where you had to have certain skills adapted to moving workers from the primary sector to the secondary and third sector, but in a steady and lifelong type of employment. So you get diversity in, you've got a process, like a factory process, and you've got standardization out. This model is out. Next slide, please. Before taking up the reason for this return of knowledge in economic theory, and its impact on the educational discussion, perhaps we should ask if the educational policies are really forced to follow behind the evolution dictated by production and trade systems. The question is legitimate because the story seems to be getting established. Effectively, as soon as the educational system managed today to integrate the question of skills in structuring contents and sectors, this notion of skills is seen by economists as too narrow and linked to a prior stage of international economics. Indeed, it was in the 1950s, in the context of the Cold War and East-West rivalry, that institutions such as OECD and the World Bank promoted educational planning intended to boost growth by increasing workers' qualifications. There was a coincidence between the process of modernization and internationalization of the production process, advances in economic theories of growth, and the expansion, spectacular, of educational system. The measurements of levels of attainment became central, and knowledge, deemed too abstract, was largely replaced in policies by skill objectives, deemed more operational and also better adapted for measuring. My own institution, UNESCO's International Institute for Educational Planning, which was established in 1963, was completely representative at that time of this trend. Today, we must surely revisit the conceptual framework, which is at the origin of the constitution of an institutionalized technique of educational planning. So, we are invited by the economists to consider knowledge beyond skills. This lexical subordination of the education world to the economic world is a reflection of this always losing race between the world of economics and educational system. And it is time, I believe, and maybe this conference is the right place, to state that educational policies and those reflecting on them should reappropriate this notion in an educational and not only economic perspective. It is urgent. Knowledge is being overwhelmed by the information age. The speed and breadth of this transformation are such that the mind can hardly grasp them. Without exhausting all dimensions of this revolution, it is perhaps Eric Schmidt, the ex-CEO of Google, who has best captured simultaneously both this breadth and speed in noting that if you digitized all communication and writing since the dawn of humanity until 2003, it would require 5 exabytes to put them in digital memory. Today, this same volume of information is produced in 2 days. That's really mind-boggling. Next slide, please. And you see this exponential rise of the information age with the first small data helping to have text, moving to the capacity to have images, sound, video, and now the world of connected objects. And this is big data. Next slide, please. This reduction over several years, from 10,000 years to 2 days, to produce the same volume of information is rather scary. Has knowledge known progression as exponential as information? Obviously not. But the conditions of its production and dissemination have been shaken by it. Because the distinction between information and knowledge is itself affected by digital technology, indeed, we have to question traditional disciplinary fields' ability to deal with this new information age. How can we process the mass of information and with so little help from classic scientific disciplines? Halfway between the invention of new markets and a new relationship to information processing, there are pioneers of digital technology. They call to our mind this new relationship with knowledge. I borrow from the French sociologist Dominique Carton 4 attitudes to this age of information, how to process it. In the last 15 years, it's distinguished from the side processing. This is a transposition to the internet of classic measures applied to existing media, newspaper, television. Here, value, especially for website advertising, is a function of visit, the number of clicks. It's next to information. It's not satisfactory. The previous slide, please. There is then the from the top attitude of the information age. This is Wikipedia. This is Google. And this second stage corresponds to an authoritarian posture for digital content. Wikipedia between a collaborative vision of knowledge by creating a well-known online encyclopedia, and Google introducing algorithmic information processing tools to organize contents from significant links. Then you get what is called the inside processing. That's the new era of the social media, the like of Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Compared to the prior model, which organized information from the center, this processing is done around it by each user, creating her or his own reference ecosystem with personal choice. And then there is a rise of what Dominique Cardon called the from underneath processing. This is the most difficult to embody in well-known words, even if it's already well used by the media with words like big data, open data, data mining. It is qualified by Dominique Cardon as the below model because it is built for individual data footprints, the algorithm, which bring it to the user of the company. This huge power of calculation, together with the algorithm, links not only the information, the data, but all the objects that are not connected objects. And the future is really shaped by this trend, and to understand that is key. So this evolution structures our daily lives, and they are very ambivalent from the point of view of individual autonomy. New differentiation in the use and exploitation of this new digital ecosystem become less and less generational questions. We used to say there is a generation not born with digital, and there is the digital natives. But I think that going forward, this won't be anymore the barrier. It will be between the digitally literate and between the digitally illiterate. And education has to take this fully into account. And in a way, these new tools, for example, the algorithms, they are new language to learn, and they are necessary to understand the world. And they are as essential as was in the Middle Age, knowing the languages of exchange, be it Arabic, Latin, or Greek, knowledge that was key to access the whole universe of knowledge. So, next slide, please.
كيف
Since the 1970s, there have been regular predictions of the end of the classroom, and even of the teacher. In the beginning of the 1990s, Larry Cuban, a Stanford University professor, invited us to step back, drawing laconically on the 10-year track record of personal computers in classroom as follows. Computers meet classroom, classroom wins. Basically, this was not a revolution so far. So we don't know what the future lies, but the consensus today is that the real progress, hope for new technologies in education, will not be implemented in opposition to what centuries of pedagogical wisdom and know-how have brought out as knowledge and practices. Successive stages of child cognitive development have to be taken into account in designing tools and their phased introduction in the educational system. Thus, today, there can be a virtuous triangle among advance in our knowledge concerning cognitive development of the young child and the youth, the new priority given into early childhood education that is very present in the Sustainable Development Goals, and the new digital support suited for the first steps of learning. Next slide, please. But it is surely at the other end of the education spectrum that there is already a break, a disruptive break, more than an evolution. The most well-known phenomenon is the MOOC, the Massive Open Online Courses. According to Anand Agarwal, the CEO of edX, which was created by MIT and Harvard, that is a MOOC platform, the MOOCs offer new teaching opportunities accessible to everyone, whatever their origin or geographical location. The characteristics of these new teaching forms are flexibility, the ability to serve many, and access to an immense open online resource catalog. According to Anand Agarwal, typical residential university curricula of 5 to 6 years may in the near future be reduced to 1 year of distance learning, then 2 years of presence on campus, followed by a first professional experience, then a professional path which, far from ending the learning process, will inaugurate alternating between the two. Mr. Chair, I may have asked you how much I have left so that I don't go beyond my time. I think that's around 10.
You have around 5 more minutes.
Okay, so I wrap up. So, one education economist, Alain Manga, does not hesitate to predict the coming of university wastelands similar to industrial wastelands in regions of Western Europe and North America of old heavy industry. This extreme vision of the future with university wastelands and a higher education model based on open source and self-management is far from convincing for everyone. For example, for Professor Tan Chor Chuan of the National University of Singapore, the MOOCs are not able to take into account the heterogeneity of educational context. He urged governments to take into account the political dimension of this question, with the risk of disenfranchising national educational institutions facing transnational giants, whether coming from the most prestigious universities or not, which already enjoy surplus profit from their international position. Professor Chuan instead sees alliances multiplying between MOOC platforms and local institutions, for example, what is already happening in India and Africa, for adapting and contextualizing content, but also for preserving a more personal educational experience instead of a completely virtual higher education. It is also interesting to note that for more than a decade, it has been technically and economically possible to have a completely virtual higher education. How come it did not happen? This is, I believe, for very good reasons. On the contrary, there has been much development of mixed forms, classroom and distance, and of modularization of higher education. I probably don't want to rush, and maybe some of the observation will be for the discussion, so we just invite ourselves to remember ourselves that next slide, please. Next. Before. Sorry. We used to think that there are 4 goals for education: the labor market task, the maximization of knowledge and skills as the second, the equal opportunity task, and the task of socialization. And education policy is all in keeping a balance between all of that. So as a final reference, I would come on back on the considering the evolution of educational systems in light of social and technological evolution. Next slide, please. The only sure thing is the centrality of the question of knowledge, not only as a service to a knowledge-based economy, but beyond a viewpoint limited to production, to the dissemination and sharing of knowledge in our society. It seems to us that there is less and less justification for the conflict between education as a service to the economy and education as a service to knowledge, provided that educational systems themselves fully assume their role in the new knowledge economy. So we call for a new leadership of education system on knowledge. The debate over the Sustainable Development Goals have the virtue of proving that it is possible for the international community to have an agreement that is not watered down and that affirms education's own mission in the context of shared hopes and goals. This is the vision supported by UNESCO to promote education as a common good, to go beyond competition among the three regulators, social behaviors, the state and the market, which too often are in competition for scholastic stakes. Therefore, the state must reposition education as a common good. This is, according to the definition, goods that humans share intrinsically in common and that they communicate to each other, such as values, civic virtues, and a sense of justice. These goods are therefore necessarily common for both their production and the profit that one can derive from them. For policies, this perspective allows one to go beyond individualistic considerations to create a collective meaning around goals and means. Also, with respect to state or market difficulties in adapting to the needs of different human communities, it offers the possibility of integrating various and different cultural interpretations of the common good in line with a renewed humanism. I thank you for your attention.
شكرا جزيلا
Thank you very much, Dr. Paul, for his presentation, which he put the changes that taking place in the planning and adopting policies in terms of education, and the paradigm shift regarding the duty of education and knowledge, and the moving towards from one stage to other stages. We will put forward the question and answer after the listening to Dr. Abdullatif, which will focus on the role of the education in building in knowledge economy for achieving sustainable development. Dr. Abdullatif Shamsi. I will ask. I would like to keep quiet and listen to the presentation, please.
الصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين.
In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful, I will summarize my paper in 25 minutes. It is about the knowledge economy, and my slides are in English language, but I will make the presentation in Arabic. The talk about the knowledge economy, and there were a lot of talk about, and we always have the slogan of the knowledge economy, but I want to focus on certain definitions, which is part of it, preparing plans and programs that can accomplish the objectives of the economy, knowledge economy. the changes were very big and huge, and depends on the technology in a very big factor. And the economic competition is based now about knowledge among the countries and the nations in the world. The time or the time in the past that we were depending on our natural wealth has become not important, and it is now changing a lot. That the actual wealth of any nation is its knowledge, the knowledge that it can develop and produce. So the knowledge and the technology used in it is more important than the natural resources. Actually, we are in the Gulf in the 50s and 60s. We have oil and gas, but all of us know that the economy is based on knowledge, and the main pillar for the knowledge is the education, of course. And if we look into the changes for the next slide, the changes in life in the past decade, there was extraordinary development in the human life. Including human life expectancy, the infant death was reduced by 90%, and maternal mortality also reduced. The cost of producing the electricity was reduced also, and the cost of transportation we have been reduced by 100-folds. There's no doubt that the development has become very fast, the pace, and it has become better. This has also affected the social life of a human being and the societies in the world. In the past century, and what we are looking forward, what will happen in the next decade, the knowledge economy. What is the knowledge economy? And let us put the definition for some of its aspects, and how it will change our social life and education, and also the job requirement. We are based in energy economy based on the telecommunication of infrastructure. The infrastructure of telecommunication is very good in this country, and research and development, and also the legislation and governance. And the main and the most important is the education and creativity, talent. Education doesn't start from the university stage, it starts from the kindergarten level, because research and development should be based on the talent that we are creating in the kindergarten. So there's no doubt that our economic knowledge based on the creativity and knowledge and the development, which also focus on the economic development as well. Looking through the history in the 19th century, how the skills was developed during the Industrial Revolution. There was dependent on white collar and blue collar. There were investments on the development of the skills of the people of the blue collar. In the 20th century, we were based on knowledge, and the previous speaker focused also to drive the economic development. So we have started from the profession and to education. Our education focused on the theoretical part and the academic part. we become too much focused on academic achievement, and there were also loss of connection between job and academia. We are looking for the future, jobs of the future. I will present what is the impact of technology on our future in the next 10 years. We are using technology, and we are looking at it in a very positive way. The smartphones and the communication and video clips and instant receive of videos, but this will become nothing in the coming future, 5 years or 10 years. What is coming in the 5 years will be much more. It is part of our, looking to the development of the technology, the new technology, and commercialization of such kind of technology in public life. We will go through the very big development in technologies, but this will create more jobs maybe in some areas, and we will lose many jobs which we used to do in the past. So if we are looking for putting up the policies, how we prepare our next generation, we have to look into this generation. Regarding the digital transformation, the growth is going exponentially. In manufacturing, in transportation, in healthcare as well. We have development which is going in a very fast pace, in a high pace, and how this will cope with the needs. Actually, this is the question. There is a study which has been published. The next slide. The technology tipping point. When we are going to reach the tipping point, and published in the previous month. It was not only, it was scientific finding by the Economic Forum. We will go through it, and we will see how the world is going on in the coming 5 to 10 years. This survey, it was snapshots for more than 800 executives in the communication technology sector, and the response was about the changes in the coming 5 to 10 years. To summarize this study, we will, when the future will arrive. The future, in this slide, we will show some of the results of this survey,
which I'll shed light more in details. So the changes that we are anticipating until 2025, the impact and the technological impact on the world, and how it will affect social life, and particularly on education. Some of the items listed here, which I'll shed more light on in more details. I'll just go through it quickly. These are the quick results of the paper. The next slide shows this survey shows the anticipated transformations from 2015 until 2027 by moving into using robots and the Internet of Things and the 3D printing and the new technologies and the different technologies, and how all of these technologies will be available for humanity as a whole and not for a specific region. Let's move on to the next slide. We'll see that by 2025, we're talking about 10% of people who will be having wearable technologies. Wearable technologies will be more connected to the Internet of Things and latest technologies. So all of the movements will be calculated, and the information and the digital world will be right in front of us in less than a few seconds. All of this will have a massive impact on the interaction of the whole society. 90% of people will have unlimited support storage. The storage and the digital storage will be unlimited. All of your files and everything will be available somewhere, and somewhere you can access it at the tip of your points. It will be endless. Of course, this will assist in transferring video clips and video storage, and all the technologies that require heavy storage will also be available. 1 trillion sensors will be connected to the internet. This is what we call the Internet of Things. 1 trillion sensors. The internet is no longer a location where you can obtain information. It has become far more interactive. So when I enter such a massive hall, I will be able to identify every one of you, because the Internet of Things can enable you to calculate many things. When we talk about sensors and the connected sensors, there are some technologies that are already available today. For example, some of you are using Google Maps. And Google Maps, when you use it, it shows you the red lines, and this is you can reach a place that at a higher speed when the line is green. This means that the traffic flow is much easier. So when you release the information while you're moving or driving your car on the street, all of this information are gathered, and you are sharing this information through the sensors and the sensors array that are monitored by satellites, and you are in this case participating information with others through these sensors, and this will be highly effective. The robotics world will witness massive shifts. It will be used in healthcare sector. It will be used and will be utilized. Even today we see this utilization of robots at the nano level. Some operations can be conducted by nanorobots that are injected into the blood veins. We have some exercises that we are conducting, and we might be conducting a specific surgeries through the use of nanotechnology and robotics. So robotics will transform our world. 10% reading glasses will be connected to the internet. 10% of the reading glasses will have access to the internet, and this will make it much easier. It will be clickable, and all information will be right in front of you. When you are talking to someone, the information will not be stored in a specific place. You will be already sensing, using the sensors to know the CV and the background of this person, and the reading glasses will assist you with this. So let's talk about the different applications of these devices in the healthcare sector and the connectivity. No doubt, I'm highly confident about these issues, because when we talk about the planning of education, this will affect the employment in the future. So it should be linked to the future of education. Another tipping point is that 80% of people with a digital will have digital presence online. So the latest statistics is talking about 43% of people are connected to the internet. So when we're talking about 80%, it means that almost the entire world is online, and the uploads will be massive. The first 3D printed car in production, so 3D printing will not be limited to a specific domain. Now we see a handful of plastic 3D printed out material and home appliances. But now we will be talking about at the level of auto industry through 3D printing. It is wonderful in the sense that you can take the code from the internet, you can download the code from the internet, and then do a 3D print, and then you will have whatever good or commodity that you want. So this will undoubtedly have a massive impact on the labor market, and will affect the business development and entrepreneurship, and even the business models. Definitely some businesses will vanish, and some jobs will disappear, and new ones will replace them. The first government to replace its sensors with the big data storage. So we are talking about the big data and the data storage, which will be part of this system. The first implementable mobile phone available commercially. The mobile phone will not be something that you carry in your hand. It will be maybe connected to our clothes, and without having a specific device that you carry around. Some consumer items will be printed in 3D. We already talked about this. When we talk about today for 3D printing, these are some of the things available through 3D, but the qualitative leap by 3D will be really materialized within the next 15 years. Another number of things, 90% of the population will be using smartphones. Smartphones are considered supercomputers because 90% will have a supercomputer in their buckets embedded in the smartphone. So around 2 billion people already have smartphones worldwide. 2 billion. So when we reach 90% penetration of mobile phones, smartphones, in addition to 90% will have regular internet access. Driverless car will represent 80% in the USA. I expect a larger number of cars because driverless cars will mean that the chauffeurs and the drivers' jobs will disappear. There will be easy access. The technology is available, but it's about commercialization and accessibility to this technology. 3D printing is not limited to, let's say, the home appliances, but also to the human body itself. The transport of liver transport can be conducted through 3D printing. Some human organs will be developed through 3D printing. 30% of corporate entities will be powered by AI. AI is artificial intelligence. And artificial intelligence can program your pattern in a specific way, and it programs it by using technology. So if you have a specific pattern of work, or even at home, your own pattern will be programmed automatically and it will become part of the artificial intelligence. And this can be used in auditing processes and even in the management of large number of jobs. So if we look at this statistics for smart population, we'll find that when smartphones penetration rate reach 90%, let's say that the UAE has the highest number of smartphones. 90% of the population of the UAE already have access to smartphones, so we already have the infrastructure. I mean, I'm talking about at the international level. We have the technology, and it's all about the utilization of this technology. These are driverless cars, as you see in this image. The technology is already here, but it will be commercialized and will be available worldwide. We have another slide that reflects the tipping points for the upcoming changes. 50% of the internet traffic roams will be to appliances and devices. This is one of the anticipated changes, that all the utilities of your home will be used, controlled through the Internet of Things. Your home will be programmed in a way that when you enter your home, all the things that you would like to be fully operational before you arrive home will be activated remotely. This will facilitate the implementation of these devices and will have massive social impacts. The sharing of journeys, let's say, the utilization of driverless cars. The first city with more than 50,000 people with no traffic lights. The smart cities means that there will be no traffic lights because cars are programmed and in sensors they can sense each other. This will dramatically reduce the number of car accidents. Now we will not need traffic lights anymore because when we have smart cars that are driverless cars, these cars will be communicating together through the sensors. 10% of the global GDP will be stored in blockchain technology. This is another aspect that affects government and accessibility of governance. The first artificial intelligence machine will be a corporate board of directors. So you will be sitting on the board and you're facing only a number of robots, the artificial intelligence that is interacting with you and giving you all the data and all the ideas in a very reliable way. So all of this is not really science fiction. These are already technologies that within 10 or 15 years we will achieve these technologies, and these technologies will be introduced one way or another. So we must prepare ourselves to this qualitatively, which will affect the people's lives in the next years. So this is really deeply rooted in education. The transformations of some jobs. This slide shows that some jobs will be computerized, and this takes us to the issue of education. No doubt, around 47% of the jobs available now, within the next 10-20 years, they will vanish. This is a study conducted by Oxford University. It shows that 50% of the jobs will vanish within the next 20 years. Some of jobs will replace them. So How can we prepare this generation? What kind of jobs are we preparing the new generation for? What are the skills that the new generation should have? Because there will be new jobs. Most of these jobs will be focusing on the administrative jobs, actually, other than the professional jobs that will continue to exist. But if we talk about services and related services, office and administrative support, these jobs will be computerized. We will no longer need such jobs, but the jobs that we are still heavily dependent on and will continue to be highly dependent on include education, healthcare practitioners, computer engineering, management. Still requires manpower. So we are talking about jobs that do not yet exist. Are we ready for these jobs? The jobs that do not exist, and how do we prepare the new generation to these jobs that are not even yet exist? So if we talk about the new generation, we must start from the primary school, because 12 years from now, what kind of jobs they will be preparing for? The traditional jobs will vanish. So the change that I mentioned a while ago, and the study conducted by Oxford University, 47% of the jobs will be replaced or will be automated. Moreover, these jobs will disappear, and this will create new jobs and new tools, or at least new opportunities and new jobs that require a different skill set and different curricula as well. The Industrial Revolution, if we go back to history, the Industrial Revolution destroyed many jobs, but it also created many more. And new jobs started or came into existence. The picture, if we would like to make an important statement, the picture looks much worse than it really is, because 9 in 10 most demand jobs in 2012 did not exist in 2013. So 9 out of the most highly demanded jobs in 2012 or 2010 ceased to exist by 2013. So let's think of the future of education. If we talk about the education system, is our education system ready? This is a question, this is the most important question. The knowledge-based economy requires the economy that the new generation becomes highly innovative and capable of coping with these developments. Where are we now, and what are the solutions? Where are we now? I'll say this briefly. In the past, our education used to be reliant on memorization, and this education ceased to exist. Then started depending on listening, and this way of education started vanishing. Today's education is still shifting, but still boring. Why? Because it has extra fat. It still has many additional items that are irrelevant to the labor market. I know that in the educational aspect, we still need some items, or let's say some factors that are related to the social and upbringing aspect. Yet our education system still has extra fat and still has too many theoretical aspects that should be replaced with knowledge-based economy aspects. Our education still uses the one size fits all, and this size is really X-large and extra large, so it has too many things. How can we create individualized learning? How can we specify talents for our students? It's difficult to designate a curriculum for each student, but how can we let education through modern technology be highly focusing on the interests of each student? The individual solutions is far more realistic when you use technology. So these are one of the things that we should keep in mind. The internet, everything has become accessible with the click of a button. So some people really misunderstand us when we talk about technology of education. Some people think that if we give our students iPads, this means that we are in the age of technology, but this is not the case. The iPads and such tools are simply educational tools, but the electronic content is what matters most. The academic electronic content is what matters the most. They have to kindle students' passion about education, and this is our role as teachers and professors, to use new means of teaching to activate this technology and capitalize on these new technologies. Having smart devices at schools does not really make our educational system smart or so. The entire electronic educational system includes many factors, the most difficult of which is the preparation and qualification of teachers. Why? Because there is a massive gap for teachers. The native generation is different from the immigrant generation in the digital age. So this gap will always exist. Our children are living in the digital world and it's highly accessible for them. We have a higher challenge or a bigger challenge of how to attract them to use these technologies in an ideal manner. We are dealing with a generation. Dr. Tayseer says that is saying that I have 1 minute left actually. We are talking about a generation that requires attention. I call it a new humankind that is deeply affected by the new technology and has a digitized mentality. They have new skills that we do not have. How can we benefit from these skills and attract these skills to the educational programs? We need to accommodate these technologies. It's not. There is no shame in saying that the new generation is smarter than us, and they have better technological skills. Intelligence has different measurements, but let's say that the new generation has much more intelligence in terms of using new technologies, and we need to teach them how to use it properly. This slide shows a number of pictures that talk about the digital age and rewiring of the human brain. And MIT has conducted this study. They call this generation a generation with rewired brains, especially new children, especially young children using technology. In the human capital, let's get back to knowledge-based economy. In the previous slide, the human capital relies on the critical thinking, the research and the problem solving and communication teamwork. We used to think that research is restricted to post-degree studies. When you are preparing your thesis for your master's degree or PhD, now you start researching. But research should be accessible through Google and the critical thinking mentality from primary school. Now even primary school students can conduct such research and come up with new results. So this slide shows the 10 results. We can go through them in more details. The 10 skills that the future workforce needs and how to integrate these skills into our curricula, including sense-making, computational thinking, transdisciplinary, which is having a transdisciplinary, so when you would be aware of other specialization, social intelligence, cross-cultural competency, new media literacy, design mindset. This is very important for all of our students. We are talking about all our students who should have a mindset in design and virtual collaboration. This has become already embedded in this generation, virtual collaboration. They are communicating through Twitter and WhatsApp, and this is also affecting the education process. This slide shows the components of the knowledge-based economy. The model that we are talking about, briefly and quickly, and in a nutshell, in the following slide, it shows how we can link our curricula by linking the stages from the primary school until university education and up to the workforce and joining the workforce. through university specialization. One of the things that we used to suffer from in the past is that the public education is the responsibility of the Ministry of Education, and university education is the responsibility of the Ministry of Higher Education. And when they graduate, we send them to a job or an industry, and the industry says that we need to train them for 2 more years because they do not have the skills, the job skills that we need.
How we have the connection between the educational institutions in order to have the output which will reduce the time required to use their talents and experience in the field of the knowledge economy. And finally, the message by Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed in his statement in the government summit. In 50 years, we will be uploading our last barrel of oil. After 50 years, are we going to celebrate, or we will have a sad moment? Actually, we have to celebrate if we have education, a good and sound education system, and the real wealth of the nation is our knowledge and the production of knowledge in the GCC area and in the UAE. We should count on our minds and brains of our people, of our young generation, men and women. The final slide, friends, taking learning seriously, because this is a big challenge, and I'm sorry for extending my presentation, and if there's any questions, I will be happy to answer them during the discussions. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Abdullatif, for the for this comprehensive presentation, in which you discussed the future of the knowledge economy and the role of education and the planning for education, and the big questions. Question you have raised: are we prepared for these challenges, and which is actually rising in the labor market and the social relationship? The challenges are too huge and big, and through this we can focus on planning to achieve whatever we want. So the implementation and praxis should actually focus on what we need to have at the end, at the last progress. Some of them are aspirational. The planning is aspirational, and they are not based on realistic needs. And we have 35 minutes for discussion and questions. I urge those who want to speak to have a specific question and to address it to specific lecture presentation or lecture. The floor is open for discussion. We need to see hands. Yes, please. We will take 3 or 4 questions, and after that we will have the answers, and then we will. Bushra Abdullah, I'm specialized in education program. I want to address my question to Dr. Abdullatif Shamsi. He presented something very important, and there is a survey by American study, that 64% of the students in the kindergarten are going to work in jobs which does not exist, and this is the main focus of his speech. How the need for new jobs will be. If we are going to plan, what is the most important to spend on infrastructure of education, laboratory and equipment and so on, or the soft assets, which is the development of the teacher and finding new programs. Another question? Peace be upon you. Abir Taneji from Ras Al Khaimah. I want to address my question to Mr. Abdullatif Shamsi, who speak about development and how in the near future we're needing certain jobs. 12 new jobs will exist. Do you think that these jobs we have to explore and find out and to prepare our students for them? Don't you think that we need to have information for the people working in the education system and institutions in order to train them to face the challenge of the future, or we will face the challenges of the future in maybe as a sudden shake, or are we prepared for preparing new skills actually? I want the answer from the doctor who presented the speech. Dr. Ali? Peace be upon you. My question is to Dr. Coustere. I want to address my question in English.
To Dr. Coustere. John Dewey, in 1915, wrote a book called The School of Tomorrow, and his daughter, I think, Evelyn or something. And he talks about the same forecast that you presented today nicely. His predictions were astonishingly the same as we are talking about today. Why we cannot make the shift toward this prediction? Because education stayed the same almost. We are still talking about shifting from dictating knowledge to critical thinking, like the Abdullatif said. So how can we bridge the gap between our forecasts and the actual practices in education? This is my question to you. My question to Dr. Abdullatif, yes, you mentioned an important fact that technology in schools and education is lagging behind relative to other establishments. The question why? Is it because we are concentrating on teaching hardware, or not paying attention to the users, or not being able to establish a content or services for the users? Like for banking, if you take banking, for example, when they decide to make this ATM machine, they didn't make classrooms to teach ATM machines. They just put the ATM machines and people came and use it. But in our schools, I think we consumed a lot of money and efforts to teach the hardware. So how can we be eloquent about technology in schools like other establishments or other disciplines? Thank you.
شكرا. دكتور حمد، آخر سؤال بالجولة الأولى، بعدين بنروح لجولة ثانية.
Thank you. Our last question from Dr. Hamad.
You just mentioned in one of your slides that education sector should lead, not to follow. How can we balance your lecture with Dr. Shamsi's lecture, where he is predicting that the future of education is going to be totally different? Shall the education sector wait and leads only, or should the education sector start to predict and to follow what is needed? This is the first question. The second question is for Mr. Shamsi. If you are giving a chance, Doctor, to be at one of the Ministry of Education top decision taking, how can you try to shift this theoretical lecture into practical education system in the country. Thank you.
هذا سؤال مليون يا دكتور عبد اللطيف. ها؟ $1 million question. طيب, please Paul and Dr. Shamsi.
Seems to work. Thank you, and thank you for all the questions. I don't know which one of the two of us got the most difficult one, but we'll see. Are we just repeating on education the same vows that existed 100 years ago, and why is it so hard? Education has always been hard, but I think what is different today is as one of the questions raised, the teachers have to equip children or youth with a world that we don't know exactly which shape it has. So it's an increasing challenge. But the permanent thing is the human mind, even if there is some hypothesis of a new artificial intelligence mixing with it. But basically, the physiology, the neuro development of the children, well, they are the same. There are steps. And from early childhood to higher education, if the education sector does not respect these steps, it is a failure. So that's really something that, technology or not, knowing human development is key to that. So it's an appearance of being always at the same stage because it's difficult, but also because the problems are the same. But maybe with the tools we have and more interactive and more personalized training, we can improve things and equip our youth for this future. The second question from Mr. Director is is education always following with 5, 10, 50 years being late, or can it lead? And really, there is nothing scientific about it. It's a matter of will, but also a policy and political vision even, that knowledge should not belong to anybody, private or public or so on. And even, you know, when one asks really the companies what they need for their workforce, it's strange because they really ask for the kind of humanist together with solid mastery of language, of numeracy, and of some techniques, but they are very much on the humanist side. So who better than the education system can make this whole set of competencies, of skills, of knowledge coherent and grow with the student through the age? So we do not have to exhaust ourselves following a demand. We can create an offer that is part of structuring the society, and that is, I think, what all education systems are about.
شكرا. Abdullatif.
بالنسبة لل
regarding the 64% of the students in the kindergarten to be in jobs which doesn't exist now, which mentioned by one of our sister over there, and preparing them for new skills, for the future skills. We have spoken about this kind to prepare our students for jobs that do not exist. But we will focus on things that complementing each other, that we need infrastructure for education, of course, like laboratory or so, and also the human resources. Preparing the human resources and the infrastructure is more easier. In 2 years and 3 years, we can prepare our schools to be equipped for the best technology, and we are in a country that have budget. Have resources that that we can use them in preparing and developing our school, and our government are really supporting this issue. But the most important thing is to preparing our teachers to cope with the needs. The investment in teachers is very important, and the challenge we will be facing for years, because every time we prepare our teacher, next year or next time we will have them to be prepared for another task, and that's how we have to invest in the preparing and giving experience for teachers. What about the curriculum? The curriculum is changing, very changing. The life is changing, the world is changing, and our curriculum has to cope with the changes. It's not for 20 years or 30 years. No more curriculum is good for 20 years. We have to life changing, and this is a great demand, and especially based on the needs of our today world, and the best practices and the best use of the technology, and best practices are available in the world. This is not only in the UAE and the GCC countries. This is a challenge it is a global challenge actually. They have challenges in developing their curriculum. Dr. Ali said about does the education system has to follow up? Yes, it is following up what is going on. There is a quality insurance, there is products in the other sectors, but in the education system, we are investing in brains, we are investing in directly with the brains, with people. So we are always following up the changes that we are facing in other sectors.
The development of education is there, but it is moving at a slow pace, and the gap is getting bigger. So the process of developing education is an investment for the future generations, and it relies heavily on the teacher. That is why we're facing major challenges. As we said before, this role is really intangible, and that is why we need to link our deliverables to the labor market. We never get to know the quality of our education unless we look into the labor market reality. That is why we find that some graduates are not really well qualified, and we re-qualify them to suit the needs of the labor market. Dr. Hammadi posed the question about making it practical, and Dr. Tayseer said that this is the $1 million question. I have the $1 million answer. Look at this book. Can you buy this book for $1 million? Welcome to the iPad generation. This is a book about the means of changing education and developing the educational system and turning theoretical aspects into practical ones. I have examples in the UAE and GCC countries of some educational establishments that achieved qualitative leaps in education deliverables. But these examples, could they be promoted and generalized? When I talk about a school model at a smaller scale and turn it into the Ministry of Education, things are completely different. So we have models. If you talk about the UAE, we have the Implemented Technology Institutes, which receive students from 9th grade and put them on career tracks. We use the state-of-the-art technologies, and this education is linked to the university education to ensure that when students are enrolled in a university, they study a specialization for which they have been prepared as of the high school. So if we turn this into the public schools and public education, this will be a bigger challenge, because we need to prepare students not after high school but before high school. This is the worst mistake that we commit. When we find students in university, they have dozens of specializations and they don't know what to study. So let's say that education is a means to an end, and the end here, or the objective, is obtaining a good job, and this obtaining a good job requires preparation from preparatory school and from high school. It's a comprehensive system that starts from school. So some schools already have this system in place at the minister's level, but I advise you to read my book, Welcome to the iPad Generation. نشكر. Now we'll take another round of questions. Please, doctor, please identify yourself. Hello, my name is Abdullatif from the Ministry of Education in Saudi Arabia. I have a question to the professor. Now, I've been talking about establishing an education system for the future. The title of your book, Welcome to the iPad Generation. We are talking about accelerating developments. Even the title of this book is even not suitable anymore. The title of his book was Welcome to the Apps Generation. So when we talk about the Internet of Things, the apps are the dominant factor. So from this perspective, I believe that changing the education system and shifting to apps is a pressing demand. Now we are talking about 5 years, 5 days, actually 5 days at school for each student. I believe that a student should go to school only for 3 days, and the remaining 4 days of the week should be left for advanced learning. And a student doesn't really need to be locked in a classroom for 5 days a week. So things have changed. We need to change the educational system from this perspective. The educational system should be changed, not just in terms of practice, but in terms of overview. Thank you. Please, in the name of Allah, the Compassionate and the Merciful, my name is Abdullatif from the Ministry of Education in Saudi Arabia. First, I would like to thank the two speakers, the two presenters for their presentations. Dr. Abdullatif actually talked about a host of elements and factors that are of paramount importance, such as the importance of predicting the qualitative leaps and changes in technology, and the anticipations in the technological developments, accelerating technological advancements, and turning to interactive education, and the need for preparing teachers and adapting curricula to be in line with the latest developments of technology. All of these aspects Dr. Abdullatif shed light on, and they are of paramount importance. If we take all of them into account, I believe this will provide a full and comprehensive answer to the key question: are we ready for dealing with the latest developments of technology? But our ambition should be much higher. All of these aspects spur our aspirations and ambitions, but our ambitions should also make us active and effective. So when we adopt this stance, we will be preparing ourselves for international economics and international developments. Our objective and our ambition is to be highly effective worldwide in terms of our impact on the economy. Please, Dr. Abdullatif, the floor is yours. As for the first comment, the iPad generation, yes. Maybe the title itself in terms of iPad is not really accurate, because the iPad age is over. But I'm talking about, we have a number of things that affected education. Historically speaking, the utilization of technology. So as of the TV age, in 1952, when we first saw the education, saw TV, Sesame, The Sesame, yes, Open Sesame generation, yes, Open Sesame generation TV shows. They use these technologies in education. In the Internet generation in the early 90s, now the iPad is an icon actually. It's a symbol. I'm not representing, of course, Apple company or anyone or promoting anyone, but I'm just saying that we have continuous interaction in this generation, and the iPad is a symbol of the new generation that manages to obtain new knowledge. You are absolutely right about shortening or reducing the number of days that children should spend at school. Education is all about inculcating passion into our students, to have this curiosity for learning and passion for learning and lifelong learning. This is what we should be inculcating through our curricula. Students should have a passion for learning, whether at school or out of school. So the technology makes alternative means of education far more available. Teachers used to be the only source of education, but things have changed, and students may have different applications that teach them all the time. So through a student's day at school, we cannot really give students full freedom in this field yet. They still have to go to school and be committed to this one. Another point mentioned by Mr. Abdul Khaliq, for the path that we have adapted. First, whether we like it or not, the utilization of modern technologies and the change in the means of education is a dominant trend worldwide. Do we have a specific recipe, 1, 2, 3 recipe that we can implement? No. There are only endeavors worldwide to adapt education to the requirements of the the knowledge-based economy and the new developments. There are practices from different locations worldwide, and they can be utilized. But do we have a specific recipe? No, there is no specific recipe. Do we have discoveries? Yes, we still have new discoveries. But I'm saying that we should do our very best, and we should be pioneering and leading the way, especially for the UAE, as we have UAE national as a minority in this country. So every single UAE national is part of the national wealth and the national human capital, and we need to utilize their potential. There are other countries that have a large population, so if there's a loss of human capital by 10-20%, it's no big deal for them. But when we talk about 10 and 20% in the UAE, they are they have a major impact, because we have a smaller critical mass, so we have a higher burden in our region to be pioneers of advanced and modern education. We don't really have the luxury to implement traditional education. So we should do our very best and be innovative. We should be leading the way of innovation in education, to have an innovative generation. If we continue to teach in the traditional manner and in the manner that we used to be taught, then we'll lose the future generation. Thank you. Mr. Paul, would you like to comment on this, Mr. Paul?
Yes, I think Dr. Abdullatif Al-Shamsi has said something very important, passion. That's a very important word. Because there was a question about this hardware versus software and this never-ending race, because technology is changing every day. So there is a very, very short anecdote. One of the most famous and important professor of computer science, his name just escapes me, he's from Harvard. He's been training programmers for the Silicon Valley, and his former students have had very successful careers in the Silicon Valley. Working at Harvard, this professor could have asked for the cutting-edge technology for him and his students. He did not. He used a bare-bone, very basic computer to focus on code, on the essence of code and programming. And by reaching to this higher level of understanding and language, he could prepare his students for 30, 40 years of productive life in the Silicon Valley, where the cycle of things is 5 years. So education systems allow this kind of environment to be, and they are very relevant to the economy.
Thank you. في مجال للسؤال.
We have room for one single question. If not, I need to seize the opportunity and pose a general question on the topic that we've heard. I'm sure that all of these points are very important, and that this is the general image in light of the smart technology, and therefore it has major ramifications for education. We focused on the economic aspects of planning for education, and the labor markets and the structure and the skill sets required in the labor market will be different. But we haven't heard much about the social function of education and the social aspect of education. What we see now, especially in the Arab region, this is very important. The signs of instability, extremism, terrorism, and such phenomena must always be taken into account, because they are as important as ensuring that education allows students to be prepared for life as a whole and not just for a career track. We want to reconsider the aspects of the social role of education. We want to redefine education and redefine the different functions of education, and not just to abridge all these functions into the jobs, and the task of education has to do with the specific career tracks and economic tracks. They are important, of course, important aspects, but we need to strike a balance, especially that the challenges are massive. Dr. Hamad, the director of the UNESCO regional office, knows that what happened in some Arab countries destroyed all the development fruit and all the development results in education and in many other aspects. So this is a challenge. We have a last question. Please. The second comment has to do with the role of technology and the smart technologies in the development of education. We must keep in mind that, as the two speakers pointed out, we are talking about tools, and therefore in-depth intervention should not be in introducing technology in education, but in reorganizing education to accommodate these new technologies. Therefore, there is a massive danger. We need to know that technology does not fix a bad education system. بل على العكس.
Makes it يعني faster there. المطلوب هو في.
What we need is to redevelop and reorganize this new education system to accommodate new technologies and continue to serve the purposes of education. Please. Peace be with you. My name is Ahmed Ghavi. I'm from the Ministry of Education in Saudi Arabia. First, would like to thank the organizing committee for hosting us and for hosting the conference and for their generosity, and would like to thank all the kind attendants and the kind participants. The future of education is really a fearful one, especially that we have worrisome indicators. The amount of information will be increasing exponentially, and when we talk about the penetration of smartphone and the devices is really massive. Not to mention the way children deal with in the tender years and then tender age, they deal with these highly advanced devices, and this has moral ramifications. This is a scary future, actually. So why don't we have a number of alliances, especially in the absence of accurate information and absence of specialized studying centers that study the future aspects of education and the impact of technology and digital technologies? do we have a number of, let's say, alliances among the GCC states, the GCC states and the other Arab states or international countries worldwide to resolve these future problems? They are very massive problems. The last question by Dr. Suleiman. Thank you, Your Excellency. Thank you very much. I'm Suleiman Awad from the high school and high school education. My question is addressed to Dr. Abdullatif Shamsi, especially the role of teachers. You have talked about this in comparison to other factors, including curricula. But I want my colleague Al-Ghamidi from Saudi Arabia to shed light on how to establish partnerships between the regional center for education planning and higher colleges of technology and a number of universities in Saudi, in UAE and Oman to underscore the technological development in education and integrate these aspects in the development of teachers, as you have kindly pointed out. Thank you.
Last follow-up from Dr. Abdullatif. Very important. The main challenge we are facing in our Arab world is that we are competing and individually and facing the challenges individually. We have very good experience in some institutions, but we don't believe in alliances. And believe me, alliances is very important, and finding the best practices and alliances with the schools and alliances with the industrial institution, which in many ways that they are preparing our education system or actually contributing to our development of our education system, which the integration is very important, and the having separate the firewall between the education system in the schools and the university and the industrial community. This kind of firewalls is very hurting our development, and the alliances are very important and becomes very crucial and very important for the complementing each other will achieve the success and will achieve the change. And if we are working separately and individually in preparing certain kind of programs, this means that we will not be able to achieve our goals and targets. So I need to repeat again, alliances are very important, and we have experiences, we have good practices, but they are separated from each other. We don't utilize them. Internationally, we see this trend actually prospering, because there are link between teachers and the industrial sector and other institutions. Thank you very much for all those who attended this session, the first session. I want to thank all of this took part, Dr. Paul Coustere and Dr. Abdullatif Shamsi. And thank you all for attending the discussions and for your questions as well. Thank you very much. Bye.